What is happening with home prices? Are they going up? Are they going down? Today, we are looking at the numbers and the data and the expert insights to hopefully give some context and help create some clarity on that question for you.
I keep it real, I keep it real, I keep it real, just keep it real.
Hey guys, it's Sam Hartman, keeping it real estate here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Thanks for joining me on today's deep dive. With these deep dives, we are taking the real estate news and headlines of the day and trying to give some clarity and answer the questions and give some context to consumers. Our goal here is to educate consumers so you can be empowered to make great real estate decisions for you and your family. So again, thank you for joining me. Today we are diving into home values, home price appreciation, depreciation, everything that goes along with it, and trying to see where are we at in today's market. I want to start this conversation with a quote. We're going to start with the supervisory economist from FHFA, Will Dorner. And Will says, the rate of U.S. house price growth has substantially decelerated. This deceleration is widespread, with about 1/3 of all states and metropolitan statistical areas registering an annual growth of less than 10%. So I want to start by defining a few things. Those metropolitan statistical areas, those are kind of like a radio station's broadcast area. It's not necessarily a specific city or a specific state. It's just kind of like a broad metropolitan area of some of the major areas across the US. So that's what they're looking at in terms of measuring this. But I also want to go to him talking about home prices decelerating. This might be one of the most confusing words in talking about housing prices in today's market, because a lot of people hear D and they think depreciating. But deceleration is more referencing the rate of how home prices are growing, but at a slower pace. So it's not going as quickly as it was in this last year or two, where we saw over 20% appreciation in a lot of markets. Things were happening very quickly. That rate of appreciation is starting to slow down. And we're feeling that and sensing that in our market here too. So he calls it deceleration, not necessarily depreciation. I hope that makes sense. He also goes into saying that these major metro areas, 1/3 of them are now appreciating at less than 10%. If I told you today that your house was going to appreciate by 9% this year, would you be pretty happy about that? I know I would. The historic average across the United States is about 4%. And here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, our national average is about 3% appreciation per year. So if you're telling me I'm going to get 9% appreciation this year, that's pretty awesome. And keep in mind, that's only 1/3 of these major metropolitan measuring areas. The other 2/3, guess what? Those are still appreciating at over 10% per year. And here in Fort Wayne, we're right at about between 12 and 13% for 2022. Here are those numbers nationally through the month of September. September feels like a long time ago. We're already in December. We're getting ready for the holidays, but September is the latest info data that we have in this regard. So September 2022, FHFA Housing Price Index has home price appreciation at 11%, CoreLogic 11.4%, and the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index 10.6%. So they're all a little bit different based off of the samplings that they're grabbing across the country, but they're all within 1% of each other. And if you notice, they're all above 10% too. So pretty strong home price appreciation still, even in today's market with rising interest rates, with a much different feel to the market. For most real estate agents and realtors out there in the nation, they're going to know what I'm talking about, just how the market feels different day to day. But in the grand scheme, our markets are still appreciating. Next, I want to look at two different graphs that talk about home price appreciation graphically because normally we look at home price appreciation on an annual basis. We look at where are we at for the year, or where are we at this year compared to a previous year. I'm going to start with this CoreLogic Home Price Insights graph here, and it goes back to 2021, and it shows you kind of the rolling price appreciation, the year over year, the last 12-month price appreciation from month to month. And so you can kind of see just under 4% is that average, 3.8% is that national average of appreciation. And you can see back to January 2021, 10% was our low. It kind of rose month over month throughout that year to hitting as high as 20.1% on a national average. And now we're back down with this last September to about that 11.4%. And so that's measuring a rolling 12-month average year over year. But I want to look at it in a more unique way. We don't typically look at home price appreciation on a month-to-month basis, but this shows a really good snapshot because of how quickly our market is changing and moving, what's happening with price appreciation across the country. And so this graph here paints a really interesting picture for the year. Now you see some red bar graphs there that indicate negative price appreciation, which we haven't had in a really long time. So that looks kind of scary. But look at the first half of the year. That's more than 10% appreciation in the first half of the year. So we've got some goodwill built up nationally in price appreciation for this year, that a few months of 1%, even less than 1% depreciation over these last few months doesn't overly change the dynamic of how the year itself is going to look. And so you can see July, August, just about 1% depreciation. September, 0.5% depreciation. So it's kind of coming back onto the upswing. Here's what I think is happening. Big changes happened to interest rates this year. That did not cancel buyer demand, but it paused it. It put a lot of buyers on edge. It put a lot of buyers kind of in a situation wondering if and when they're going to be able to buy a home. And a lot of buyers maybe just changed their budget, and now they changed what they're looking for in a house. And so when things like that happen, it takes a little time for buyers to adjust. It takes them some time to absorb that new information, that new reality, and figure out, where do we go from here? Also, it takes realtors a bit of time to adjust as well, because now we are coming up with new creative ideas. We're finding new lending partners that offer creative opportunities for buyers to save their costs and potentially have opportunities in the future to save money on their interest rates and things like that. So those are things that we're doing now in this market as well. So that buyer demand, although put on pause for a little bit, maybe now through September is starting to wake up. They're starting to get their feet back under them, and they're starting to hit the market again to find their perfect home. Let's go into another quote from Mark Fleming, chief economist with First America. Mark says, house price appreciation has slowed in all 50 markets that we track, but the deceleration is generally more dramatic in the areas that experienced the strongest peak appreciation rates. Okay, so I want to take this quote and I want to dive right into my favorite thing about our Fort Wayne, Indiana real estate market. Are you ready for it? Some people might hate it. I love it. We are a conservative real estate market. Our highs are not as high and our lows are not as low. During the run-up and during the mortgage crisis of 2008, the national average market depreciated by 20%. In Fort Wayne, Indiana, over a 5-year period, guess what? We only depreciated 5%. So whereas large markets in the United States were completely wrecked, homeowners were wrecked in this country during that mortgage crisis, although I know there were people that were affected here locally in Fort Wayne, our general market did not take the hit that the rest of the country did. So that is one of the things I love about our market. So guess what was happening in our real estate market nationally leading up through the pandemic? where all this demand was hitting with really low interest rates, high buyer demand, low seller supply. Prices were appreciating at over 20%. But in Fort Wayne, Indiana in 2020, we appreciated by 9%. In 2021, we appreciated by 16%. These are great numbers for us, but they are still conservative based off of the national averages. So no matter what happens in our national real estate landscape, what I can tell you, looking at the historic response and data of our local real estate market, Fort Wayne will have a conservative response. And I think that's really encouraging to home buyers and home sellers out there, because you want to be able to rely on your home, on your asset, on your investment. You want to count on it. You want to know that it's going to grow. It's going to be steady. It's going to be there for you. On top of all the other great benefits of home ownership, that you are making a good investment in your home, in your market, in your community. And here is a graph of some of those biggest markets that were most affected with price depreciation. And it's looking at the last 2 months. So you can see San Diego, Seattle, Denver, San Francisco, Los Angeles had almost anywhere between 2.3 and 4.3% depreciation. But you can see the following month, it's starting to temper. It's that drop is not nearly as drastic. So hopefully these hardest hit markets are not being continually hit. Hopefully they're bouncing back out of that, and the dynamics with buyers that I talked about is kind of coming to life in those markets as well. And then lastly, I want to end with this chart. It shows price appreciation leading up to the pandemic, and then price appreciation since the pandemic as well. And if you look at this chart, this is pretty wild. I mean, the price appreciation for the 2 years post-pandemic versus the 3 years leading up to the pandemic are stark. The pandemic lit the housing market on fire. So for people that bought a home prior to the pandemic, in the midst of the pandemic, your asset has really, truly performed amazingly well. And I hope you're enjoying the heck out of that security of being in your own home as well. But there's an immense amount of equity that's been built over these years. And so another headline that you might see coming in the near future is going to be talking about foreclosures, or the rate of foreclosures. Homes don't get foreclosed on when homeowners have equity in their home. So that's something to think about, something to kind of calm your nerves, that dynamic, the immense foreclosure market from the mortgage crisis of 2008, that is not the same dynamic that we're looking at in today's market, mainly because lenders lend to better buyers, stronger buyers with better financing requirements, and also homes have more equity. That's just the gist of it. So this is great information. I hope you guys found this information valuable and helpful. I hope it answered some questions, but maybe it stirred up some new questions. Please know that I am here to help answer any of your questions that you might have. I know a lot of home buyers, home sellers, they'll tell themselves, oh, let's not reach out to Sam quite yet. We don't want to waste his time. Please waste my time. I love being helpful, answering questions. This is literally what I do every day, is try to add value to my customers' lives. So I want to help create clarity and confidence in you as a consumer. I want to educate you so you can be an empowered buyer or seller in today's real estate market. So I hope you found this helpful, guys. If you liked it, make sure you like, comment, share this video with someone that needs the information. Otherwise, just stay on board and stick with me till the next deep dive. We'll see you then.
Keep it real, I keep it real, I keep it real, just keep it real.